SportsCenter is back with all the drama from Group A of the AFF Suzuki Cup. Now, to keep their tournament hopes alive, Malaysia desperately needed to win their final group game against Laos. At the same time, they also required Indonesia, who've already qualified, to at least draw with three-time champions Thailand. Malaysia handed the easier draw in the final round of Group A matches. They were up against lowly Laos, and they started off well, Mohamed Amri scoring just 4 minutes into the game. But they were pegged back almost immediately. Lamnao Singto couldn't miss from point-blank range. A tense first half for Malaysia before they retook the lead in the 41st minute. Amri again showing predatory instincts in front of goal. The Laotian defence collapsed after the interval. First, Amirul Hadi taking full advantage of a poor clearance to score with a placed shot. 3 minutes later, Malaysia made it 4-1 with a virtual carbon copy of their third. This time it was Nosharul Idlan who capitalized on the defensive error to score. Mahali Jasuli capped off an efficient team performance with a fifth in the injury time. Malaysia clinched it 5-1, their first victory in the AFF Suzuki Cup. So Thailand needed to win against Indonesia to ensure their progress into the AFF Suzuki Cup semi-finals as Group A runners-up. And the three-time champions were well on their way when Suri Suka's beautiful volley found the net in the 68th minute. But Brian Robson's side paid the price for some costly errors in the final 10 minutes. Panupong Wongsa brought down Christian Gonzalez in the box 9 minutes from time. The ref awarded the penalty, which Bambang Pamungkas duly converted. 7 minutes later, Wongsa committed yet another critical mistake. His handball in the box earned him a second yellow card. Pamungkas was once again flawless from the spot. Indonesia won it 2-1 to maintain their perfect record in the group stages. While with just 2 points in 3 games, 5-time finalists Thailand are out.
As promised, I have a former Cambodia coach in the studio with me, a certain Scott O'Donnell, to talk more about the AF Suzuki Cup and what's been going on. Scott, great to see you as always. We have to speak about Thailand, I guess. What has happened? Woeful tournament.
Yeah, it's very disappointing. The once powerhouses of Southeast Asian football, always the favourites going into the old Tiger Cup, now the Suzuki Cup, and they failed in the SEA Games last year, which is an under-23 tournament, failed to get out of the groups stages, and once again in this Suzuki Cup they failed to do it as well. It's a bit surprising because Thailand football, domestic football, is on the up. They've got a good league going now, they've got a lot of sponsors, there's a lot of money involved in the league, and most of the Thai players who used to play outside the country are all coming back now and playing in a very successful domestic league.
So with, according to you, domestic football inside Thailand in rude health, is this just a blip, or are Thailand no longer the giants of Southeast Asian football?
Well, I think they've got to have a look at themselves because being knocked out in the SEA Games and also the Suzuki Cup, there's some question marks there because gone are the days where they used to play, even in the last Asian Cup, they had the better of Australia for 65 minutes. They played the short passing game, a lot of passing and moving. When I was coaching Cambodia, they used to tear us to shreds. We just couldn't cope it. We were chasing shadows a lot of the time. And we aren't seeing that football now. There's big gaps between the defence, the midfield and the forwards. They didn't look like they were playing like a cohesive unit that we know that they're capable of doing. And that's obviously good news for the other countries, but they've got to go back to the drawing board and try and get things sorted out because obviously Brian Robson, an experienced coach, it's a big surprise.
Scotty's led me very nicely into Captain Marvel. Is Brian Robson the man to bring Thailand back to the top of Southeast Asian football? Well,
I think, to be fair to Brian Robson and Steve Darby, the assistant coach, their preparation was extremely poor. I think 8 or 9 of their players were involved in the domestic FA Cup final on the Sunday before the Suzuki Cup started. So the administrators have to take a look at the planning. They've always known the Suzuki Cup was going to start. So their preparation was poor. But having said that, as the head coach, he has to take responsibility for the results. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't know when his contract's due to expire, but it's a big ask, and I think he'd love the opportunity to turn it around and get them back up where they belong.
Yeah, poor preparation or not, we know that football is such a fickle beast. We know what's happened in the UK recently with Chris Hughton, Ray Wilkins and so on. Do you see Captain Marvel staying on as head of Thailand football?
I think he would. I don't know him personally, but I would expect he'd like the opportunity to get Thailand back up the top where they belong. And I think he would relish the opportunity. It's just a matter of whether he's going to get the opportunity to do that. He may get the opportunity because of who he is. If it was another coach, maybe a local coach, I'm sure he'd be out, but maybe he might get a second chance because of the fact that he's Brian Robson.
Okay, let's move on to Indonesia and Malaysia. Indonesia, 3 times finalists already, good at home, might struggle away from home, do you think?
Possibly. Go back to the SEA Games again, which is an under-23 tournament. They were woeful in Vientiane last year. But this year they've got Alfred Riedel, a new coach. He knows Southeast Asian football inside and out. He's a former Vietnam coach, the former Laos coach. So fanatical support at the Senayan Stadium. They've got maximum points. They're playing some great football. I think as long as Alfred Riedel is allowed full control of what's happening with the team and is allowed to continue what he's started, then they're a good chance of lifting the trophy, I think.
Great stuff. Former Cambodia coach Scott O'Donnell, wonderful to see you in the studio as always. The man has spoken. There you have it. Stay with us here on Sports Centre. NBA coming up.